Hello everybody, this is John Butero, and today I'm going to be responding to a new video by the authentic Kristi Burke. And I apologize for the fact that all I've got is audio today. I'm really not in a position where I can do a good video presentation. You wouldn't be able to see anything anyway, it's too dark. But I do want to discuss some things that Kristi Burke had to say on her program, and I want to discuss it from the standpoint of basically trying to give her some answers to some things that she claims doesn't make any sense, but I believe that it does make sense. I think it makes perfect sense. She was talking about the subject of free will or free choice, and whether or not that we really have free will or free choice today, whether or not that's a loving thing that God gives us free will and free choice, and whether or not free will and free choice will exist in heaven. Well, it is a complicated issue, and I'm going to do my very best to explain it the way that I understand it. We do have free choice in what we do. Every day I get up and I make choices. From the time that I get up all the way to the time I go to bed, I'm making free choices about what I'm doing. It is by my free choice that I decided to go ahead and make this video responding to Kristi Burke's video. That was my free choice. However, at the same time, we can say that free choice is an illusion in the sense that when God created us, and even before He created us, when we were just in His mind, God already knew the choices that we were going to make. So from that standpoint, you could say that free will is an illusion. But nevertheless, I am still making the choices. They're choices God knew I would make, but they are choices that I am making nevertheless. When it comes down to, is it a loving thing that God made us with freedom of choice? Did He do that just so that we wouldn't be robots, and just so that He was doing the most loving thing by giving us free choices? I've never looked at it like that. I don't think that that's what everything is about, is that, God is showing us His love in every single thing He does, including giving us free choice that will sometimes lead to bad things taking place because of our bad choices. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. I think that what's going on is that we are seeing the consequences of different actions when they're played out. So we're seeing that when we're seeing all the bad things that are taking place in the earth as a result of rebellion against God's ways, to me, this is where God is showing all of His creation how things are if we do not do it His way. I don't think it's as simple as saying God is giving us free choice just because He doesn't want us to be robots, and it's the most loving thing He can do is to give us free choice. I do not think that's what the deal is. I don't think that's the full reasoning for why that I do have the choice to do things that are not right in this earth. Now, how about if we've got free choice today, and free choice is something that God sees as very important. Now, she said loving. I do not think that's what it's about, but, nevertheless, if God sees free choice as something that's so valuable, He had to allow bad things to happen. What about in heaven? Is it possible to still make free choice? I happen to believe that it is. I do believe we will still always have free choices to choose to do whatever we want to do in heaven. I think that we can see that already with the rebellion that played out with the devil and the angels. And no, Kristi, it's not an unbiblical doctrine. To be an unbiblical doctrine would be to be a doctrine that actually goes against the Bible, and that doctrine doesn't go against the Bible. You can rightfully say that it's not spelled out so clearly in the Bible that we know it for a fact, but to call it an unbiblical doctrine is not true either. So, it's kind of like I've talked about the possibility of the gap theory, which I happen to believe in, but at the same time, I can't say it for an absolute fact. I do not see that as an unbiblical doctrine because it doesn't go against the Bible. You can believe in the gap theory or not believe in the gap theory and still believe everything the Bible says is correct, about the Genesis account of creation as we know it. So that's not an unbiblical doctrine, but nevertheless, it's not a spelled out doctrine. So therefore, we can't be 100% sure that it's really true, and I do not claim that I know for 100% sure it's true. I just happen to believe it's more likely than not, but I don't really argue about it. So anyway, it's not an unbiblical doctrine to say that Lucifer and a third of the angels rebelled against God and that they're the ones that are down here tempting us today. I do not see that as being unbiblical at all because it can fit in with the biblical narrative. Now, I do believe that happened, therefore I believe that free will is a possibility in heaven. I believe it is possible among the angels today. I believe it's possible among any of the saints that have gone on and gotten to heaven today. So yes, I do believe that we will always have free will or free choice. Now, what about the idea that there's no pain and no suffering in heaven, therefore how in the world can this be? Free will and free choice down here has led to all of the bad things that are going on down here, so wouldn't that be the same thing in heaven? Now, the difference is, Kristi, that in heaven, we're not going to be sinning in heaven and doing things that are bad in heaven. And you say, well, how is that true? Why would that be different there? If we've got a new nature or something like that, then how come we wouldn't ever use it to do wrong things in heaven, even though, because we've done it down here? What's going to be the difference? And when do we get this new nature? And then she brought up the fact that Christians sin. Well, here's the thing about that, Kristi. Whenever a Christian makes the decision that they want to be a born-again believer, they made a choice. They made a choice that they want a new nature. And they get the new nature as soon as they're born again, even in this life. That person no longer wants to sin and rebel against God. And then you say, well, then why do they sin and rebel against God? Because outside forces will at times play on their fleshly lusts and will play on them and even trick them sometimes into doing things that are not right, that being the devil and the fallen angels. They will tempt us. The difference in heaven will be that new born-again believer with their new nature won't have those outside influences from the devil and his fallen angels tempting us anymore. And in our natural born-again state, we won't sin if the devil is not there tempting us. During that 1,000 years of the millennial reign, when the devil is locked up in the pit, and there's 1,000 years of peace, during that time, the tempter won't be there tempting anybody. So you'll see a different kind of life here on earth. It'll be without war, and it'll be peaceful, and things will be much different than they are today. When the devil is loose, though, immediately he goes about and he stirs up a rebellion, and people rise up against God, and then they're finally destroyed. In heaven, there will be no outside tempter. Therefore, in our new nature, we will not do wrong. Now, you say, well, how can God be sure that nobody's going to do wrong when they get to heaven? There was a rebellion up there in the past. God is all-knowing, and he knows who is going to do what. That's where predestination and election come in. So God already knows in advance that anybody that he's letting into heaven is not going to rebel against him. It's not because they couldn't rebel against him. It's because they will not choose to rebel against him. It's just like where God could tell Peter that he was going to deny him 3 times, even though Peter didn't believe he would. It's just like God knew that Judas Iscariot was going to betray the Lord. It wasn't that Judas Iscariot didn't have free will or free choice. It's that God already knew what he was going to do before he was ever created. He just already knew what he would do. So the answer to that is that in heaven, there will be no more rebellions that I'm aware of. Could there be? Sure, but they're not going to be. We know there won't be any more future rebellions. There won't be any more of People aren't going to rise up against God and try to overthrow him or anything like that. It's not going to happen in heaven. Now, about you. If you chose to decide to come back to the Lord and give up the atheist viewpoint, come back to the Lord, and you repented of your sins and you turned to him and you truly became born again, when you made the choice to become born again, you automatically receive a new nature. And when you would get to heaven, it's not that you couldn't choose to turn away from God, it's that you wouldn't choose to do that. If you were truly born again, you wouldn't choose to do that, and the decision to become born again would be your own decision to receive that new nature. It just wouldn't happen. Now, what about the worshiping of God in heaven all the time, being forced to do it? Nobody's going to be forced to worship God in heaven. And here's the best way I can describe that, Kristi. It's not that they're going to be forced to worship God. It's that they'll want to worship God. You grew up in a Baptist church, and I'm not against Baptist people by any means. I've got family that are Baptist. But I'm not Baptist, I'm Pentecostal, and there's a big difference between the way that we worship. In the Pentecostal churches, we still believe in the gifts of the Spirit, and we believe in, allowing the Spirit to move in our churches. And when we get to praising and worshiping God, I'm sure you've seen where people have gotten into a state of almost euphoria, where that they have what we call being slain in the Spirit, or you'll see people get so full of joy that they will, begin dancing in the Spirit, or there'll be different kinds of ways they react to the presence of God. The people, when they get into that state, they do not want to leave it. They love that state. I've been in that state before too, where I've been slain in the Spirit, and I love that feeling. And it's like you don't want that feeling to ever end, and you're there automatically praising and worshiping God. In heaven, you'll be right there in the direct presence of God, and it will not be a chore to do that. It's a state of euphoria. It is a state of joy. It's a state of such pleasure worshiping our Creator. You won't want to leave that state. So nobody will have to force you to do it. So really, it's as simple as you will continue to have free will, but God already knows who would do what when they're in heaven, and only those who will continue to serve God will be allowed into heaven. And when it comes down to praising and worshiping God, nobody that's doing it will have to be forced to do it. They'll want to do it, because you get into a state of, it's a euphoric state that you won't want to leave. So that's the best answers I can give you right now, Kristi. I hope that helps. It's not a situation where it doesn't make sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me. I know different people have different answers that they'll give you, but those are my best answers that I would give you for right now. And to those of you who have tuned into this video, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, I want to invite you to subscribe, and hopefully you'll got something out of this video, and hopefully I'll be back soon with some other videos that I hope will be of some help to you in understanding things better. Till the next video, may the Lord bless and keep you. Good night.